7.3 is live, and we get feature updates, a flashpoint, and more on Voss, and of course, an opportunity to hear directly from Malgus. I wonder what he's going to say. That and more on this episode of the SWTOR Escape podcast from newoverlords.com. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 471. And with me, who I wonder also what she will say, is Seema. Hello there, Seema. How's it going? And what do you have to say for yourself?
Well,
there?
we are going to talk about what Malgus has to say. So if you are looking for a spoiler-free episode, this is not it.
Not yet. In the second half. You can listen to the first half. We're going to talk about
You
news and that kind of thing. But
Right.
yeah, we wanted it to be...
I want to get an early warning in there.
Yeah, we wanted fun stuff. We wanted to tell people about the fun thing to talk about. And this is what's fun to talk about today. So we're going with that.
So I did enjoy the story. I sort of ran out of energy while I was doing the questing part of it, and we can talk about that when we get to. But aside from that, I've also done, like my normal stuff. I'm just sort of paying attention to Galactic Seasons right now. In our ops team tonight, which Max couldn't come because he had some family in town, and we went and did 2 lair bosses because we had done 2 on Tuesday night, so we got that Galactic Seasons target done. And then I think I'm up to like 4 or 5 now, so I only need to do a couple over the weekend, so I can really cherry pick this weekend. And I don't know what I'll do. I'll probably do the one where you do 15 quests as a trooper.
Yep.
I
Yeah, I might do that too.
started on that because my trooper, I would like to get her caught up so she can do new stories as they come out. But so I logged into her. I said, okay, I'm going to do I'm going to quest for a while on her. I'll get closer to my goal of getting to the point, to getting her current. And she was at the point where she had to run Secrets of the Enclave, which is the flashpoint on Dantooine. So I did that, and that was like one quest.
Yeah.
Of the 15. So I'm like, yeah, no, I think I'm going to do CZ-198 later.
Right.
But I do want to get her caught up. So I might, depending on how much time I have on Saturday, Sunday, I might dig in and do some more stuff on her. But she's still a ways back. Anyway. So that's what I've been doing this week. How about you, Max?
I've been doing some season content. Done. So as the chat room was just asking, I'm done with the regular Galactic season. Finished that last week or the week before. I thought I would be able to do the PvP season just through a buyout. I was done through, I think I was up to like level 11 or something, and I only wanted to get to 16. I was able to buy up to level 15, but not any further. So I was only able to buy out through like either 11 or 12 to 15. It only cost me like 20 million or 30 million or something, which is a pittance. But I was not up to level 16. I was just at I just bought out to 15. So I was at 0% through 16. And I needed to finish 16 to finish off the Shadow Hand armor set, which you can see in the game if you're looking at our video version of our podcast right now, which you can see I am wearing. So I did get it. But what I had to do then is I had to do some PvP this week, and which I did. So I did a little bit of Arena. I did a little bit of Warzone. I just queued up a couple of the mornings. I wasn't able to do our fun Wednesday fun night. I bet there was a couple people in there last night because yesterday was my birthday and just my daughter and I were hanging out for that. We watched the Dungeons and Dragons movie, which we were talking about before the show. We'll probably talk about after, which is a fun movie. Anyway, because I was eating cookies and watching Dungeons and Dragons, I had to do it in the mornings. And the queues are definitely slower in the mornings for low level. So I was doing the 10 to 45, 10 to 44 level range, which I like. Even though in arenas, I'm finding, because I'm the Sork, even though I'm like level 40 and there's like level 15 Juggernaut or whatever sitting around, I still get targeted. It's a mistake for the other team. In fact, I had 2 really good matches. I don't know who I ended up just randomly getting teamed up with, but there was 3 of us on our team and 3 of them on the other team, 3 DPS on our team, and then 2 DPS and 1 healer on the other team, and we're like, "Oh, they got a healer." Okay, so we round 1, we kill them, we do it. It's fine. Round 2, they get another person. So we're still 3 people, and now there are 4 people and a healer, and we won that round too. I was very proud of that. And then that same sort of situation where it was 3 versus 4 and they had a healer, I got a second one of those later that same day, and we won again. Uh, at level 40, I still have enough of my abilities. I don't have the immunity bubble, but I have enough of the cooldowns on my knockback and my self heals and my speed boost to be able to run around pillars. And if they send a couple people after me, then the other 2 people can burst down their healer, and then we'll just be end up taking them out. And I can throw out dots while I'm running away, and they
There you
should go
go.
search somebody easier to kill, but they
And
still
then
go after
Bob's your
me.
uncle.
Yeah. And Bob's your uncle. So that was actually relatively fun. And as you can see here, I actually did almost 2 levels. And if I did a couple more rounds of PvP or a couple more war zones or something, I could probably finish off level 17 in the PvP objectives, which would give me these 2 PvP season tokens, which are kind of a big deal. So I may end up doing that. I only need really only like 2 or 3 rounds. I don't even have to finish an objective. If I did finish an objective, I would definitely get it, but here I am. I am three quarters of the way through level 17 and just what I did this week because I hit an objective late, or 2 of the objectives actually. So we'll
So
see.
is 20 the last level?
25.
25.
Yeah, 25 for the whole season. And for anybody that's listening, it ends in 4 days. So by the time you hear this, it's going to end on Tuesday. And you needed to get to 25 if you wanted the second armor set, which is the same as the first armor set, this beautiful armor set, but it's got the glowing parts on it too, the emissive textures, which look really good. It's the second set is definitely cooler, but I like this first set. I've seen it dyed. I was saying to Seema that the I think this set, to me, the set looks better on a body type 2 than my body type 3 mercenary, and but it still looks good. But I
I
really
think it
like it
looks
on a
different.
body type 2.
I think it looks different. It's like 2 different outfits,
It
but I like it on both body types.
Right, right. It does change it. I liked the preview where it was really looking kind of assassin-y,
Mhm. Right,
and
more it looked more ninja-like, now you
right,
look more
warrior,
warrior-like.
samurai warrior.
Samurai, yeah.
Yeah, which is fun, which is fine, which is what it's supposed to look like, and it does look good. But I liked the kind of the more svelte ninja-y looking. I almost wish you could customize when you do your outfit to change your body type to skinny up,
Mhm.
which I kind of can do if I have my outfits for my robot armor, and that does change your body type. Doesn't change your height, but it definitely changes your width.
Right, and the fact it changes the fact that you have body parts.
Yes, although my robot types are typically uh, where the body parts you don't actually see any skin, which I do not like. So I could claim that it's all cybernetics, even though this leg is there could be flesh under there. There's not in my headcanon. Anyway,
Right.
been up to
But
a
what I
bunch of
meant
that stuff.
was you do look
Oh, there you
more
go. There's it.
svelte when you don't have an abdomen at all.
Yes, when you can like see.
That's what I meant, missing body parts completely.
Yes, when
Yeah.
you could. Yeah, there when it your my chest cavity
You're
is
see-through.
hollow,
Yes, right.
as you can see there. That's in fact maybe that's a little too disturbing.
Yeah, Quinn is just pointing out that getting the 2 tokens is probably worth it for next time.
Right, because eventually, if I 6 season down the road, I could get the furious weapons, which is what I would really want, the furious blasters. But that takes a lot of tokens, and just a few tokens here and there in the seasons is not enough. It will take like something like 6 seasons for me to get it. Doing that, and then I did almost all of this 7.3 content, which we'll be talking about later. Some of the daily, almost all of the missions you could possibly do, except I didn't run the flashpoint again, which we did on the PTS, and you could have seen the podcast where we do that. I'm sure I will run it again. and I didn't finish a couple of the Gormak camp missions. But I ran everything else, and we will be talking about that. But first, let's talk about the news.
Now, an Imperial News Network report.
First up in the news, hey, 7.3 has launched, and we're going to be talking about in detail after the rest of the news. But obviously that's a headline. What else did we hear about what came this week, including what
We
came
had
today?
some yeah, we had some hot fixes, and I was actually not really experiencing any of these problems, so I'll just say what the fixes are
Yeah.
without any insight, really. But there was a problem with the GTN buyout process not working properly. That's been fixed. Um, the preview window, like when you're looking at your gear, apparently there are situations where if a player came close to someone, it would reset the window, so they fixed that. And the shrubs on Alderaan apparently had disappeared, but now they're back.
Which is weird. I wish I had seen that.
Yeah,
That
me
that
too.
that that sounds amusing. They are tracking a few other issues, known issues. In fact, the known issues list is continuing to grow. Jackie does a good job of managing that list. You can go on the forums and watch that list. You can also post your bugs that you are finding, especially with this economy update. And so that's the next news item that I just wanted to remind people. The economy update is in, and that includes a lot of extra transactional taxes. And those transactional taxes happen when you trade items with other people, when you're sending items via mail for cash on delivery. There's extra taxes going on there. There are a couple bugs apparently, or people, at least individuals, are experiencing a bug here and there for some of those transactional taxes seeming to be much more than they should be. If you find that, if you're finding some of that value pricing way out of whack, or something is getting calculated wrong, go ahead and post it. Put a bug in current in the internal system. That's probably your best bet. You just do report it in game. They will be tracking that stuff down, and that's the kind of thing where I would expect to see a little bit of that here and there. But yeah, so that was a bigger change, but we'll go through, we'll remind everybody what the rest of everything that was going on in 7.3 is as well. And if you find anything, bugs with anything, that's a good place to go and track that stuff down. One other little thing, what else did we
Yeah.
hear about, Jackie?
Jackie did
Oh, from
mention
Jackie.
the new community mount, they're calling it, which is a Mandalorian heavy jetpack.
Yeah.
We're gonna get a couple and play with them so that you guys can see what they look like. Not tonight, but maybe next week.
Yes.
Um, and they call them community mount because they're available from content creators, from staff, and by participating in whatever various testing initiatives they want to incent people to do. So it's not available on a vendor, or you don't get it forever or whatever. So you just kind of have to pay attention. But we'll see how that looks. It has a special feature where parts of it change color according to the crystals that you're using. So
Yeah.
that'll be interesting to see. Because I think do we have other mounts that, yeah, there's other mounts that have your crystal color too.
I Not very many, and I don't think I have
No,
any of them. There might be
no, I
one
don't think I
or
do either.
two already, but I couldn't even tell you for
But it's
sure.
special, man.
It
Yeah,
is, and I love that idea of being able to customize or at least change the colors like that. That seems like a great
yeah,
option. Although I wish you could set a different color than like your main crystal, because my main crystal happens to be red a lot of the times, and just red. I want like purple. I want purple, purple jets or something coming out of the back.
yeah, yeah.
But as you can see,
It
there's
looks
little lights
from
that are different on
yeah,
it as well. I like this.
and it's big, but I like the design of it. And some people, it's fun to have a little tiny jetpack because then you're just like whizzing around the world. But
Right.
I think this one makes sense. This is sort of closer to what Paz Vizsla in The Mandalorian would have, for instance.
Right. That's what the chat room is mentioning here. Eflux mentioned someone was talking about it being Paz Vizsla inspired. I think I heard that somewhere too. So it looks pretty cool. And if we get our hands on, so this kind of also replaces the Opal Voltilla. That was the place that was kind of the
That
community
was the
mount before
community
this.
mount before. Yeah.
That one's now kind of off the list as the community mount. This is the one that's on the list as the community mount. if we get our hands on these, which I think we will, and you get in newoverlords.com/discord, we'll probably get a giveaway going and give one out if we can. And we'll try to make that happen relatively soon. So newoverlords.com/discord, jump in there. What about community news? Do you want me to do it? Because I make you do it every week.
Yeah.
I will do
Yeah,
it.
you can do it.
I will do it. Guild Fun in AIE, AIE-guild.org. Guild Fun. We've got Guild Fun going on all over the place. There's a bunch of Diablo Guild Fun going on right now. We publicly listed AIE, and I think we got a bunch of new members off of that. So new people to the Discord. We're kind of like one of those casual, family-friendly, older, mature people, but people like bring their kids. So it's really well set up for that. And everybody who's been joining lately, we have not had any problems with anybody. So really appreciate everybody who's kind of like just cool and being fun, cool people. In Star Wars: The Old Republic, we've got a bunch going on. We've got our chat channels in there in AIE. We've got our guilds on both the Republic and the Imperial side. We just treat it as one thing. We all have characters on both sides, and we do open guild activities. Our big one is Tuesday night. We call that our mandatory fun night. And then we've got Machete and Stask, a couple of our officers, doing things on Wednesdays and Fridays. Not every Wednesday and Friday. In fact, for summer, I think it's going to be every other Wednesday for PvP night. And sometimes it's low B PvP, sometimes it's level 80 PvP. And then on Fridays, it's also going to be rotating and maybe a night off here and there, but often it's like GSF on Fridays. Fun stuff. Those guys are great. And then almost every other night of the week, we've got a half a dozen operations teams that often need subs, or you could potentially find an open slot and join one. But that stuff is going on throughout the week as well. Our ops night for our team is on Thursday night, for example. If you would like to get in there, AIE-guild.org, right on the main web page there for our guild, there's the link to join that Discord, and that's where you can ask for a guild invite, or just grab us in game or whatever, or jump in our Discord, we'll get you in, or jump here in the chat room and say, invite this character. Republic or Imperial on Starforge. It does have to be Starforge. Shout out to the chat room. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out, talking about the Dungeons & Dragons movie and whatever else. Well, you aren't talking about that. I was talking about the Dungeons & Dragons movie. For putting up with listening to me talking about the Dungeons & Dragons movie. That was fun. And we will talk more, including your notes and speculation, because we will get into a little bit of speculation on what does it mean, man? What does it mean when Malgus said blah, 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 this update? We'll do a little bit of our speculation, but I'm interested to hear what other people have had to say. In fact, we already had some notes posted to our Discord, the newoverlords.com/Discord on, or maybe that was in the AIE spoilers channel, on what people think might be alluded to, what might be next. Because, Malgus is going to something motion, something burn, something burn. Which kind of sums up again what he said, but we will get into that shortly. Let's do that now.
Power will be yours if you are willing to burn.
We are willing to burn. We sure are willing to burn. And we're continuing to be willing to burn. We haven't yet started burning, but soon, any moment now, we're going to burn. But it was fun. It's a good story. So let's remind everybody, Asima, of everything that's in 7.3. And then then as soon as we're done with that, we're probably going to be getting into story and maybe even showing some clips of the video. So I know some people might need to hold off on listening to this, but we wanted to talk about the story because there's some cool things that happen, and it's mostly story that we haven't seen yet. So we were excited to see it and talk about it and do it. And then we also want to talk about what some of the speculation is on what we're seeing. And it might be different too. It's going to be different for different people because there's the Republic version versus the Imperial version. We'll get into that too. But what did we get? We did get story. So we got a story update for Old Wounds. We'll talk about that in a second. And what else did we get?
We got a new flashpoint, the Shrine of Silence. As you point out during the news, the Credit Economy Initiative.
Yes, which is an evolution, a continued evolution of them trying to balance the economy. And we've done other episodes on this, which of what the definition of balancing the economy is, which is credits flowing in versus credits flowing out. This is another way to take some credits out and remove some loopholes for the way credits are being taken out of the system through things like GTN taxes. What they did not want is people using alternate currencies like, hey, I'm just going to
Hypercrates.
use a hypercrate to represent 2 billion credits. So that way I don't have to sell things on the GTN and have those GTN taxes taken out. I'll just trade you a hypercrate for that amount. And then you can have a stack of hypercrates and trade it for other things. Now, when you trade a hypercrate, there's a value put on the hypercrate and you get taxed on that amount. And that comes out of the transaction of handing that off to someone physically, trading in game, or trading it through the mail. And closing that loophole again makes two things happen. One, it closes that loophole to have that credit sync, that natural credit sync of things as they move around the game over time, or as cartel market items come into the game that they get moved around. Have that natural credit sync to balance the credits flowing into the game through things like daily rewards. And it potentially provides them an opportunity to get rid of that secondary economy of using things like hypercrates as currency, which they would like to do. Do you know if, and this is probably something we could check while we're talking about it, but do you know if the maximum amount you can post something on the GTN went up as part of this update? It may not have
I
yet.
do not know.
Chat room, if you know that, that would be interesting to know, because that's got to be part of it eventually as well. But they're going to be doing more, and this is just another one of those updates, and it's part of the credit economy. What else did we get? Oh, this is a
So it
good one.
hasn't started yet, but we're going to get Nar Shaddaa Nightlife starting on July 11th,
Mhm.
going until 2028.
I think it's just never going to end.
Yeah.
We can just keep on asking. It'll just still be on.
But yes, we'll have to pay attention. So it's coming up in July.
Yes.
So that's 3 weeks from now-ish.
Really? July is 3 weeks from now?
No, Nightlife is 3 weeks from now.
Oh, July is 2 weeks from now. Wow.
Yeah, July is 2 weeks from now.
Summer's over. That's it. It's winter is coming.
And then they also made some tweaks to gearing and to class balance. So,
Yep.
I
Little
mean, those are
minor
in the patch notes. Yeah.
minor updates to that. And then the daily resource matrices are gone.
I mean, I think that's the main change
Yeah.
to gearing. Yeah.
So looking at daily resource matrices being gone is a fun part of it. And those are now converted over to conquest commendations, and then the credit limit on, or the total possible conquest commendations limit is up. It went up to 4,000, which is I guess that's double what it was, but it could use a few more. You can always dump conquest commendations and turn them one for one into tech fragments. And then tech fragments you can turn into OEM and RPM components. And OEM and RPM components you can turn into tens of millions of credits by posting them on the GTN and paying some taxes on it now, but you can definitely unload that. So there's an easy way to get rid of these for significant value. So it's not a bad way for that to get rid of DRMs that way. I did notice, though, I was getting conquest commendation drops quite a bit more, and I realized, because in every place I would have been getting daily resource matrix drops as part of like doing a daily or something, and now I'm getting conquest commendations. So this total balance was going up quite a bit more quickly than it had in the past. So now I'm getting that message constantly now. You are almost at your limit, and you want to go to this fleet and get off the limit. So that is that. Anything else in those notes? I think that covers, Nar Shaddaa Nightlife. A couple new things out of Nar Shaddaa Nightlife. They've got some pictures there.
Yeah, I mean, that armor set is pretty cool.
Yeah, with the glowy holograms hovering outside the
Yeah,
armor.
yeah. Plus it's also,
I just tried to
um,
turn the model.
the sort
The
of
static
yes,
picture.
the sort of baggy-ish pants too. Even though they're sort of gathered in at the knee with those, like, knee crests or
Plates,
whatever.
knee
Yeah,
knee armor.
it's
Yeah.
still kind of yeah. I like it.
Oh, PvP Season 3 starting on July 18th. So there is a little bit of a downtime. There's a few weeks, 3.5, 4 weeks of downtime in between the PvP seasons, but that's hot on the heels of this one. And it's an evolution again of the armor set that we just finished, the Shade Veil armor sets. The new armor set is a further evolution of that, and it does look really cool. So it's another sort of similar style and further evolved that I like. So I might have to get to 16 again in the next season. Cool, cool. So here's the part. Here's the part where we're going to talk about the story content. And
Shamelessly,
yes, so it's going to be a little spoilery. If so, here's the part where you may need to pause
or like
and
100% spoilery.
yes, yeah, we're just going to talk about the story. We're gonna get right
Yeah.
into it, deep into it, and what it means. And quote, talking the quotes. Yes, I'm going to show some of the video. I videotaped myself going through the entire story. So this is your spoiler alert. You have
You
been.
videotaped it.
I got my Betamax on a tripod and pointed it at my television screen while I played the game, and my eight
I'm glad you did
millimeter
because that's
reel.
higher fidelity than if you had used
That's right. Betas was higher fidelity than VHS.
right?
That is true. No, I OBS'd it. I did record it though. So let's do it. Let's do it. What did we? Oh, we started with the Rivik scene, which we saw bits of that in the trailer. The cutscene when you start Old Wounds, it gives you the whole scene of Darth Rivix and what he's actually doing in there when he gets. And this is told from the Imperial perspective. It's slightly different, obviously, from the Republic perspective, because I think Tauader is the one who's sort of more of the main character than Rivix is, but both of them are still in the scene from either side, but you're getting definitely a different perspective there. But it's Rivix.
It's different in a major way too.
Yeah, yeah, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But Rivix brings along a bud, what's his name, Lord Sovu,
Yes.
who's basically a patsy. So
Right. Right. But he's yeah, it's brilliantly done because yes, he's a patsy. So he's a character that kind of shows you more about what Darth Rivix is really about. And then
yes,
also he's there to serve a purpose
yeah.
that he doesn't realize.
And there's bits of the well-directed, the actual cinematic itself, not only the dialogue, they're not just telling you what's going on and telling you that Darth Rivix is got a plan, an ulterior motive here, but they show it with the facial expressions, even with as old as this engine is, like there, a little smirk. So Lord Sovu, elbows him aside, says, "I'm not
Yeah.
afraid." And Rivix, his eyes squint a little bit and he smirks. He's like, all right, we'll see how this goes. And but the dialogue continues to keep up with it. So
And
it's well directed. All of these
how they
cutscenes are.
made that, they were pointing out the size difference with perspective to make it even a
Yeah,
bigger difference between, the big beefy Sith Lord who's like, "Oh, you're weak. You're clever,
right.
but you're weak."
I should have gotten to your place, and you're weak, and now you realize why I'm so cool. And Rivka
And I
is
love
like,
this part where Darth
all right.
Rivix is like fiddling with the thing and getting, and his eyes, his eyes pop up over the thing, and he
It's
looks at
like,
him, and then he looks back down
yeah,
again.
we'll side eye over the thing. Oh, this is gonna be good.
Yeah, yeah, he's yeah,
Can't wait for this one. Glad I brought this guy along. And he brought him along for a specific purpose, which is to trigger the Indiana Jones style trap here. It doesn't drop a giant boulder, but does shock him half to death when he pulls it out of the force field. I don't exactly know why. Maybe he didn't know exactly what the traps would be, but he knew there would be a trap because I think he could have subverted the trap if he knew what it was. In fact, he kind of does later in this scene even. But
Not
he's like
really. Well,
he
yeah.
he force pulls it out and lets it shock
Right, which he
Tao,
could have
which we're
done
gonna
that
see.
here too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he could have just like been halfway across the room and force pulled it out and ran away. But here he goes. he lets he lets Sovu pull it out and gets shocked by these four shock towers, drops the relic, and Rivix is like, told you, just be careful. It's not my fault.
And he has like the best line ever. Well, we haven't come to it yet, but
What is it?
well, the setup is Lord's when they're coming in, and he says Darth Null doesn't like visitors or whatever, and he says, "I'm not afraid of the dead.
Right.
I do not fear the dead."
Yeah. And Rivix, yeah, right here, when Rivix lightsabers Sorfu the rest of the way dead, I think he says, I don't fear the dead either.
Right after he, yes, exactly.
He finishes off Lord Sovu. Yeah, I don't fear the dead either. Yeah, there he goes. However,
So, but in that scene, who is he talking to on his communicator when he says, "I found the thing that you know,"
uh, I don't know.
and
Either
this look on his face too when he notices how Idar, he's like, "Dang it."
I keep thinking through all of up to this point, I keep thinking Rivix is more nefarious than he is, but this whole 7.3 story and what comes next when he comes back to the Alliance and turns it over and talks to Ogorub, now I don't think I think he is like working with us and doesn't have a long con going on necessarily. He's still got his own ways and means, which are nefarious. But as we're going to see here in a second, he gives it to us right away. He tells us everything he knows about us. He's dying to talk to Ogorub more about it, tells Ogorub everything. He's like holding nothing back. He doesn't seem to have an ulterior motive with any of this stuff. So I was kind of surprised at that. I always thought that Rivix was going to turn out to be like, stab us in the back or double cross us somehow. And it still could happen. Maybe it's a long, long con, but definitely seems to be on our side. And it's kind of nice, kind of good to have him on our side because sometimes you
I don't.
need
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
Seema doesn't trust.
I don't for sure. But I mean, the fact that his I know you said he has nefarious means, but he brought along a spare Sith Lord to kill. I don't think that's what you do when you're on our side.
Well, but he's on my side as the alliance leader because
Except for at this
he
point,
goes direct. I mean, he comes out of here with the relic, goes directly to me, hands it over, explains everything that happened, talks about Tawadair, explains everything he knows. He holds nothing
right,
back.
right.
But I don't know.
I mean, I don't think it would have to be that long of a con if he's like saying, "Okay, I don't know anything about this thing. How can I find out about it?"
Maybe.
Well, I know where there's a bunch of people that are smart about a lot of different things. Let's go. I definitely think he feels he could just steal it back again once he learned whatever he needs to do. I definitely
Maybe.
don't think he feels like Ogorub could keep it from him, for instance, if he wanted it back.
Maybe. Maybe not. Tawadair walks in and she's kind of aggressive.
Yes, she is.
So just from our side, from the Imperial side, she walks in and goes right to fight. She's just there and she's just ready to kill Rivix. And
Right. Right
ignites
off
her
the bat, she's like,
lightsaber.
"I didn't come here to talk."
Right. No hesitation, no conversation, no, let's talk this over or I'm gonna capture you. She's out for blood. Which to me seemed a little aggressive. But he is a Sith Lord and she's a Jedi and she's there to fight the Sith.
Well, when you watch it from the other side, you have some insight into that.
Okay. So he so at the way it finishes on the Imperial side, which we just saw, he put the relic back. He force pulls it out so it triggers the trap again. Tawadair does get hit by the trap, but she blocks half of it. She doesn't, get as knocked out as Lord Sovu does. And Rivik slinks, walks or struts. He kind of struts away
Right.
with Tawadair on one knee behind him over his shoulder. So tell me about the Republic view.
So on the Republic side, it starts with Tau Eder, and she's she's following up on a lead, and she's out there with Nosteral and Arn, but they divided up leads, I guess, and so this is the one she's following up.
Okay.
And she's as she gets closer, she can hear lightsaber action and stuff.
Okay.
And as she comes into the room, she sees him kill Lord
Sovu.
Sovu.
Got it.
So
it was already.
So from her perspective, he has stolen a relic, and he's killed for it.
Murdered
she's
someone in front of her.
And she's walking into a fight, really.
He's too dangerous to be left alive. Yes. Okay, Mace
A
Windu.
Victorian, yes. Al Kalagan in chat says Rivix is always reminding me of a Victorian vampire. I can see that.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and so what you just described with the relic, like when she says put it down, he goes okay, and he puts it down in the trap, which rearms
the trap, yeah.
Rearms the trap. And then he force pulls it out, and like you say, she gets the blah blah blah. On the Republic side though, and I guess it has to be this way, he force pulls it out, but she force pulls it from him.
Oh, right.
And then he leaves, and she, has to recover from the shock of the 4 towers. But it has to be that way because then they both have their scenes where they bring it back to the Alliance commander.
Okay, so Tau is kind of part of the Alliance on the Republic side and brings it back to the Alliance commander.
Yeah.
Got it. Makes sense. But as we're sort of alluding to, Rivix comes back, hands it right over, wants to talk about it. You get a choice to either talk to maybe a Hylo or Ogorub. I decided to talk to Ogorub. I thought I like Ogorub, and he seems pretty tech.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where Ogorub is where you're going to end up.
Oh, you're going to end up there regardless.
Yeah.
But so then it ends, and you have to walk over to Ogorub. But before that, you get a cutscene thrown in, which you're not part of. You sort of remote view into back at Hedda Cole's headquarters, a moment with Sahar and Rickon, which I think is important. Then a Hedda Cole speech. And so let's talk about this because I think this is important. Sahar comes in. Rickon's being the same Rickon. Sahar is trying to get him to use force powers. Rickon gives it a shot, can't do it, and gets frustrated, and then has his little speech about how the Mandalorians is sort of what he is now, and how that gave him back his agency, which I liked, and I think that was kind of fine. I think,
and
that
what
was
I remember
good viewpoint
from the Blur trailer back the very first time we saw Sahar, when they were both children.
Yeah.
I think they both had force powers,
right.
Just that hers were a lot stronger. So that's why she knows he has it in him.
Right.
Not just that she senses it or whatever, which maybe she does.
Right. However, 2 times, here once and during the Hedda Cole speech once, when Rickon gets angry, he does. They use this same data pad that they were experimenting on, that he thinks he can't move and can't use the force. He does force push it both times out of view of anyone. No one notices, but we from the point of view of the audience, the camera, notice. He's obviously still has force powers and still pushes it, but in my point of view, from the direction, is his anger is driving it. So this is where it gets into a little speculation, and people are saying, what's Rickon's arc going to be? I think Rickon could end up being Sith, dark side, dark powers, if he does develop those force powers. Because right there's a little force push when he got really mad and he yelled at Sahar, "Don't you pity me?" And he throws it back at her.
Yeah, I mean, I get that because his way of interacting with the force is rage.
Yeah.
That sounds very Sithy.
Yeah. And his way of interacting with everything is rage right now. And
Right.
what Hedda Cole does here next in her little speech, two things. One is a great thing with Bask if he's still alive for you. I don't know if you killed Bask back at the fight with on the last update in the arena with Shea Vizsla. I don't know who what happens here, but I let Bask live, and Hedda Cole basically blames the failure of her fight, which I thought was a little petty of her. Blames it on Bask. She accuses Bask of using his machine and interfering enough to cause Hedda to lose. And Bask didn't do that. So it was a little unfair of Hedda to be either pushing that on him or blaming him as a scapegoat or whatever and not owning up to her mistakes. It made me lose a little respect for her on the side. What happens here with Bask, though, I really like. So she gives a little bit of a Al Capone speech of like someone valued credits over loyalty and blah, blah, blah. And they shoot Bask's henchmen and grab Bask, throw him into an airlock. He tries to chat his way out of it and they space him. They blow him
So
out an airlock.
I think she. I was surprised when they spaced him,
I
but
was.
now looking back at it, basically what she's doing right now is re-cementing her power over her followers. She had to have a scapegoat.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know that I lost respect because I already think of her as sort of like an evil overlord type figure.
So yeah, I do wonder, yeah, if she was just doing this as a
Well,
to
and
make an
also she can't.
example and
Well,
to
no, it's more than making an example though, because since what she's doing is blaming the fight on him, then he can't live to explain to people that no, that isn't what happened. So
right,
she has to get rid of him.
right. But if she's doing that as a power move, as a strategy to to continue to rally her position, but she knows that it was her own failure, I'm fine with that. And you're right, that wouldn't make me lose respect. If she's kind of just
And it,
oblivious and thinks that she
oh,
doesn't
yeah.
she did get interfered with and she would have beat Sahar anyway, that would make me lose a little respect for her, just her personal assessment.
She
But
did definitely have it planned out, right? Because the people knew what to do.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she
Like,
had her little speech planned, and it was the little moment
right.
of seeing
Yeah.
everybody around the
She
table.
does give good speeches. Her speech that she gave at the on Runic was a good speech also.
Yep. At the end of her little speech here, though, she does reveal the holocron, and I actually looked this up. Datacron versus holocron. They're actually the same thing, but holocrons are made with force powers and require a force user to be able to crack them open. Datacrons are similar and store data. Both of them store different amounts of data. This is a holocron. She reveals the holocron, and Sahar's like, I told you you're not supposed to be using that. It's a bad idea. But that head is like, no, this is going to make us strong. And she tells everybody, she shows it off. She tells everybody, she says, and we're gonna put this in motion. We're gonna have a great plan. I'm gonna put you into cells. Not everybody's gonna know the plan except the leaders here. And this, I think, was directed really well again as well. Rickon, she says, no one's gonna know except me and Rickon takes a half step forward, and she goes, and Sahar, and Rickon freaks out visually in his face. But him taking the little half a step forward, like right here, he takes a little half step forward.
Yep.
And then she says Sahar, and he just grits his teeth and side eyes, and everybody cheers for Hedda and Sahar, and Rickon is angry, clenches himself up with his rage, and knocks the data pad with the force power off the table again, and the screen goes to black. I think that was well directed.
I feel like she must know the effect that this is having on Rickon.
Again,
so I don't know.
Does she?
I don't know.
Why would she?
Like,
yeah, I don't know. You're right. I feel like she should, but And again, if she's kind
But
of
what to what
oblivious
end?
to it,
Like, what's
right? Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I don't know.
So I think my speculation on Rickon is that at some point along the way, he's going to realize that blaming Sahar for what happened to them as children is um, just an emotional, pointless thing that he's been doing, and he's going to kind of grow up and realize that
Get it like
he
a
can't blame her.
redemption, or sort of a redemption, and come to terms. And
Come to terms for sure. I hadn't really thought about redemption, but I also that's what I think they're working towards. But you know what? They could be the Sith Lord thing
yeah,
too.
yeah,
I mean, yeah.
yeah. That's interesting. I kind of feel like he's getting pushed further and further, and may end up snapping and breaking, and maybe that's the direction that the
So
story is pushing him.
yeah, like Intisar says, I think Hedda purposefully wants to pit Sahar against Rickon.
Yeah, but to what
Well,
purpose would
yeah,
Hedda
but
be doing
why?
that? Yeah.
How does she benefit from that?
I mean, even if she needs to put Sahara in that position, I would still take Rickon aside and say, "Hey, you're still my number one,"
Or I
or
mean,
whatever the case.
is it that she feels like he's been getting too powerful and she has to take him down a peg? I mean, that's a typical sort of power move, I guess,
Maybe,
but
maybe,
I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. I don't know, or keep them apart because those two together would be too powerful. I don't know. Anyway, I think that was a good scene, well directed. I kind of liked that.
Yep.
Then we're back in the base. So that was just a cutscene. We're back in the base. We get the Rivix and Ogorub conversation, and Rivix mentions the Tawadair confrontation, explains all of that. We do get to see them sort of chatting it up with Ogorub. Ogorub explains that he found tech in this relic, and it seems like, is this where they say it seems like it's like, I don't think did they say half a lifesaver? I think he just said it seems like it's force related tech, because it's got a Deegan residue in it, a Deegan crystal residue. So there's
Mhm.
four kinds of kyber crystals apparently. This is more research I did. Four kinds of kyber crystals. A Deegan crystals were typically the crystals used by Jedi in this time period. So that's a clue. That's a clue here. And when we get a little bit further, again, with spoiler, when we get to Voss, we're going to hear in detail that yes, this was a Jedi relic, and it was actually part of a lightsaber for Darth Null, who was Jedi Null before. We don't know that yet, but
Or just no.
yeah, Null. Ogorub got far enough to know that it's fragments of lightsaber. Yeah, lightsaber power source. He does say lightsaber, and it's a Deegan crystals. Now, Sith also used a kind of kyber crystal, but they handled it quite differently, and it wasn't usually a Deegan crystals, and they poured negative hate and suffering into the crystal, which was a process called bleeding the crystals, which is what turned the crystals red. But so they can tell, why was Darth Null have a lightsaber that was built like a Jedi? Here's me being oblivious. Why did Darth Null, the Sith Lord, have a lightsaber that was like kind of like a Jedi's lightsaber? I don't know. I guess that's me kind of being dumb. But because maybe she was a Jedi at some point. We don't get to that conclusion here, unfortunately, but that seemed pretty obvious to me.
I mean, they speculate a little bit about what it must have been like to wield both types of power.
Yeah. And
Um, but they should have thought of it too,
yeah,
because
we should have thought of it.
she wouldn't have been the first that we knew about that switched back
Right.
and forth.
Right. Yeah. People have done that plenty of other times. As you finish this up, then you get told, hey, you know what you should do is, if you're going to ask anybody about this Darth Null stuff or try to get a little bit of information, you should go talk to Belgus again. Try to get, now that you've got a little bit more to go on and a little bit more to tempt him with, go tell him you figured this out, maybe even like allude to you having discovered more than you have, bait him into talking a bit. So you say, fine. Sounds good. I will go do that. You head out back over to the fleet, go to the prison section. Lana and Theron are there. They're cool. I like these guys. They're such a great
Yeah,
part
I
of
do
the
too.
story.
Yeah.
Everything that they say and do, I think they're well written. They're really well fleshed out characters. I care about what happens to them. I don't want I never want them to like leave my alliance. They're like my two, my right and left hand. It's I've really come to like both of them. And I didn't like Theron as much originally, and I really do now. But then Shay shows up, right? So Shay shows up because she's trying to take the next steps to figure out what's up with Hedda Cole. She knows Hedda Cole's got this relic, and she's like, let me in there. Let me in there. I need to know from my point of view what is going on with the relic and how Malgus is maybe either using or working with or teamed up with Hedda Cole. I also, and Shay's got a good point here. She says, I know Malgus. I worked with Malgus before, which she did at the sacking of Coruscant. She was,
Right. As Theron points out.
yeah, she was the Mandalorian in the original cutscenes in the 4 original Blur trailers before the launch of Star Wars: The Old Republic. Remember, she's the Mandalorian that takes down the shield that allows the shuttle to crash into the Jedi Temple when Malgus walks in and has the shuttle open behind him with all the red lightsabers.
Yep.
That's her. So, but she says it was just job. I'm not obviously teamed up with Malgus anymore, but I kind of know how he thinks. Let me in there. Now, we get choices here. What did you make the same choices I did? I wanted her help, but I didn't want
Yeah.
her in the room with me.
Right. I picked comms,
So,
which
but
yeah,
I'm thinking it works. It ends up that way regardless,
I think so too.
because I don't think they made a version of the cutscene where she's actually standing there next to you talking to. So maybe like Theron or Lana ends up
Yeah, the
suggesting
fact
that
that she
regardless.
wasn't on the list, I don't think was ever going to be
Right.
surmountable.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Because she's not on the security list, and that's like the Jedi Council, and everybody's like all up in arms about, she can't be on the list
Yeah,
to go
because I
talk to
mean,
Malgus. Okay.
they've got to be afraid of
Right.
how Malgus is going to escape. Really,
Right.
I mean, you'd think he'd be able to find a crack that somebody else couldn't find. So yeah.
And Shay, I think it would be valid to not have Shay on the because she has worked with him in the past. So like
Right, right.
let
It
Shay
might
just
be
go
hard to get her.
marching right
You're
into
right.
there.
It might be hard to get her on the list.
I don't think so. However, technically, and Malgus even alludes to this shortly, from the Imperial side, you, as the Imperial Alliance leader, were teamed up directly with Malgus and a partner to Malgus as recent as a couple updates ago in Objective Meridian.
Right.
So I guess you're teamed up with him, a partner of one of Malgus's partner, much more recently than Shay was. But you're on the list, but I guess you're the Alliance leader. So
And
anyway,
also, you didn't destroy Coruscant.
yeah, and also he didn't like sack the entire Jedi Temple and destroy Coruscant. There's that little detail. So this idea of having her in comms, she's like a bug in your ear as you go in to talk to Malgus, and then we get the scene where you take your little walk in there and you get your little slow walk. I chose the option to ask him, "Hey, how's it going? You got everything you need? You having some
I
good
did too. I
snacks in
kind of wish
there?"
I hadn't.
I know, because like
It
Shay's
felt
like
really,
he's
it felt really pointless. Yeah.
Shay right away is like, that's so stupid. He's gonna see right through that. Just get to the point. Uh, now we get some solid Darth Malgus dialogue, and I copied all of this dialogue from the bits from the parts, the subtitles. Copied all the dialogue from the subtitles because I wanted to deconstruct it. There's some good parts in here. There's some good writing in here that I really liked. He doesn't say a whole lot. He doesn't tell us everything that's going on, but it does move things forward slightly, but it's still also good writing. He starts off by saying, "Is there any knowledge of Darth Null that I do not already possess?" We were trying to like bait him with this Darth Null stuff, and he said, "I know all about it." He also says, "It's only a matter of time before you discover the connection. Her mastery of the Jedi secrets is woven into all of her creations. Like her, my vision surmounts Jedi and Sith, Empire and Republic. That comment harkens back to everything he's been doing ever since False Emperor back at launch. My vision surmounts Jedi and Sith, Empire and Republic. I'm outside of both of those. That's where I'm coming from.
I mean and that's what he means when he says, "I've broken my bonds."
Yes. And he broke his chains in two ways. Somebody was talking about this, and we were chatting about this somewhere on another channel in the last week or two. When he broke his chains from Darth Asina or whoever your
Mhm.
emperor had to be, he was implanted with a device to get him under control of the current emperor. He broke that, but he's also broken his chains even from the Sith code, from being Sith, from being Jedi, from being part of the political and power structures of the galaxy. And that's the path he's on. He also then makes some comments about, well, what's up with the Mandalorians, and he says there, which I think was interesting, and I believe him. I have no need for the Mandalorians or their quarrels. An endless cycle of waste and fodder. They're useless.
Yep. Yep.
So he is not allied with Hedicole. He's not using Hedicole as like his army. I no longer think that it's like Hedicole is going to have some mission to come break him out, which I kind of speculated at one point. I don't think that's the case anymore. We had a little moment. I did, my character at least. Which character did you do it on? What was their class?
Bounty hunter.
Okay, so it was also Bounty Hunter. So you probably got the
Yeah.
same thing where when he says the thing about the Mandalorians, you have a little comment in there, which to me seemed like just an insert to be able to have a little bit of a class story comment thrown in. Which there was a little interchange in there I thought was funny. He says Mandalorians are useless. You say, I can understand how someone would think that the Mandalorians are unreliable. And in your ear, Shea Vizsla goes, watch it.
Yeah.
I like
Right.
that. And then you continue to say, from the point of view of the bounty hunter, which you are a Mandalorian, that's part of your class story. You say, but we are strong, we are loyal, and since the day I became a Mandalorian, I have never looked back. Which you can only do if you're playing as the bounty hunter class story.
Right.
So I
Right.
wonder what other class stories have to say there, if there's some other class story insert or that just sort of skips over that. Doesn't add much to the story, but I liked it as sort of the class story throwback. You do suggest to him that you can't conquer the galaxy without an army, and this is where he says something else interesting, I think. He says, when I am through, one will rise from the ashes. Willing to burn, something, in motion, burn, but continuing that, when I'm through, an army, he's alluding to an army is going to rise from the ashes.
Right. Embrace the flame.
He goes further. I think there's just some good dialogue. He said, I will tear apart the corrupt systems that allow weakness to infect the galaxy. I will stop the rot. I will burn down all of their failing legacies and see who embraces the flame. And then, I think this is some really cool little writing in there. It's just the scene, it really added quite a bit to it. Malgus squints and he, gets a weird look in his eye because you only see his eye because remember his mouth is covered. So you can't tell if he's smiling, but I bet he's smiling in a couple moments. He said, who whispers in your ear? And
Mhm.
he just
I
force
like that
sense
too.
glams on that you're getting info fed to you, and he pushes out his force sense. He closes his eyes and he pegs Shay. He says, Shay Vizsla, it's too late. Your thoughts are plain to me, Mandalore the Avenger. Your rage consumes you. There was a battle and your price slipped through your fingers. Your people are divided while Hedicole gathers her army. You are right to come begging for answers. Hedicole will destroy you. So I liked that interchange. I liked how it was done in the cinematic. The direction of it was really done well with him picking up on it. Shay's facial expressions work well in that moment. His comment, though, that Hedicole is going to destroy you, that I'm not so sure about. Uh, does he know something? Does he does he know for sure that that's I mean, does he really think that that's the case, or is he just taunting Shay? I don't know. What do you think?
I think okay, when he first said it, I thought he was just taunting Shay. But now I think he does believe that it's going to happen, but he might mean it in a slightly more metaphorical way than actual besting her in battle. But like
Yeah,
the fact that she exists, the fact that so many people followed her, the fact that the Mandalorians are not united anymore might just do Shay in.
right. Right. True. It might. Regardless, it baits Shay Vizsla enough that she freaks out. She yells, "What do you know? What do you know?" Bangs on the door. And then I thought there was a moment I really liked in there when Shay Vizsla gets mad enough to bang on the door. The guard droids come to attention and Lana ignites her lightsaber.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that
Well, and
was
also I think Theron, he makes a little movement
yeah,
too.
yeah.
So I imagine that he puts his hand on his blaster.
Yeah, yeah. So both of them come to the ready, and Lana igniting her lightsaber, that's an aggressive move. That's like cocking the shotgun, you know?
Yeah.
Or you know, yeah, cocking the pistol. Shay storms off, she gets angry. And Malgus, it seems like it almost took a little out of him or something. He sort of like exhales and puts his head down and looks down. But then he goes on with a little bit of a speech, and this next part of his speech I think was also really good, written really well, and has a little bit of fun stuff in it too. So he says, "Can you not see it? The past looms over us all, a shadow of unchanging history. There are fools who believe they can outrun the shadow. Without a flame to chase it away, it will consume them." That sentence right there, those two sentences, I think were some pretty good metaphors, some pretty good writing. I like that. Fools who believe they can outrun the shadow without a flame or without a light to chase it away, shadow will consume you. And he goes, as in fact, I put that on Twitter earlier and added Caitlin on it. That was a good little metaphor. Then he continues, "They're doomed to repeat their same failures. None who have stood by my side have understood this. The only one who could have is my enemy." And he's alluding to us. "A shame
Mhm.
that you and I must remain that way." So,
It's almost an intimate moment.
yeah, like, you know, like he kind of wishes that we were still buds. Uh,
Right. And we're actually kind of physically close to each other, and it's like a moment of connection in a weird way.
yeah, and he's like a little bit of a sigh associated with it, and he's like, I don't know, I think that would have worked out well. We could have, you know, would have been a good team. And
But I also found it like a little frustrating too, because he's saying the only person who could have understood it, and we're standing there trying to understand it, and we
yeah,
don't.
right. However, we know that he knows that we're working against him right now, so he's not going to open up
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah, of
which I can
course.
see. However, now that's all we get from him. That's the end. We walk away. We say something. I didn't like. We said like nothing. I think I said nothing lasts forever, which that was whatever. Had to have some exiting comment as I walked
Right.
away.
I think I said that too, but even as I was saying it, I'm like, what does that even mean
Right.
here?
We do not get here, and I know I've seen in the forums and stuff that this has frustrated some people. We don't actually get that much further in the story. Malgus, I guess, again, not told us all that much, which I agree. I still like the dialogue. I like that an army rising from the ashes, the idea that there is going to be some conflagration, even if it's metaphorical, to light things up and then to have an army rise out of whatever kind of event that Malgus has put in motion, which probably has to do with the holocron and it causing something to happen, which is where my speculation comes from. It's definitely more clues in that direction. Now we do get one more chapter of stuff that we'll talk to here about in just a second, which is the stuff that's on Voss. And I think we won't talk about like the dailies and the side story on Voss, But let's talk about the part with Santa Ray and the three because that does go one step further. Then,
Yeah, yeah, it does.
all right? Uh, so so right after we're done, in fact, when we're walking out of the prison, Sonare calls us on the holo communicator and says, "Yo, yeah, why don't you? I got some stuff. I got something to tell you. Some important things, but I can't tell you on the phone. You gotta come to Voss." And we say, "Okie doke," right? Because you can never just like tell people right then over the phone in movies and television and fiction. You always have to have some opportunity for things to go wrong in between and not have this vital information right there told to you. But we get to Voss, and in my version of the universe, it's Arkin and Sonare who we show up on Voss and get to chat with.
Mine too.
Yeah, you had Arkin. I
Yeah.
like Arkin. I liked his character arc. I'm glad he's still alive. The chapter that we had to play for Galactic Season last week, chapter 16 or whatever it was, is the one where you defeat Arkin and you get the chance to let him go. I I liked that moment. I liked the what was happening to him and why he was fighting us in that moment. And I like that he's there and what he's sort of turned into. Uh, Another, I think, well written, well done character. And I don't I can't understand why people flippantly say that the Coffee Cotet were bad or that these characters are bad or there's nothing to care about. Valen, Sana, or uh, Senya, Arkin, I think they were very well developed characters and
Yeah, I do too.
their motivations were super strong and it still makes me care about their stories. So Arkin is there mostly, but Sana Ray is the one who's going to be monologuing here. And she's the one who says, "We figured it out. And you did this research, but yes, we found that Darth Null was a Jedi. She was a Jedi, but she had this force power that no one else had, which allowed her to communicate and reach out to people into their minds and find other force users. And because she could reach into the depths of their thoughts like that, she was able to mentally bond with people who could feel the force and awaken their abilities in people that may not even and that would not have awakened their force abilities. However, the rest of the Jedi, the people she was around, did not like this. They did not think that was a good idea and ostracized her, sort of kicked her out, kicked her to the side. They didn't make her a criminal, they didn't lock her up, but they pushed her away enough that she went about this mission to use that Jedi bond to find some of these people, awaken those powers, and on this remote planet, start this enclave of these Force users. She continued to use this power, reaching out to people across the galaxy because she does do this over vast distances. And oops, she comes across in her mind the Emperor. And
Yeah.
the Emperor goes, "Wow, that's I like what you're doing here. And
Think I will
I'm
take it.
gonna take that for myself," and basically takes all of her Jedi follower or all of her non-Jedi. There's sort of like a third faction here, which is developing, which I think is an interesting element to this. Takes her and her third faction, turns her to the dark side. She becomes Darth Null. She is under the Emperor's sway from that point forward to use her tech then to create the children of the Emperor. We already knew that that was a Darth Null creation. And it's all part of her being trapped by the Emperor and turned. So that's what Sana Ray's sort of explanation to us is. And I thought that was cool. And I think that does move the story forward and was a pretty cool revelation. But why else did Sana Ray bring us here? To chat with who? Your pals. You really like these guys, right? Right? Seema? Tell us
So
who.
basically the point of what happens after this is to get in front of the three who are like the mystics that kind of run things on the Voss side of Voss. And so in order to do that, you have to kill 10 rats, deliver 3 apple pies.
Wash some
Basically,
tables,
yeah,
unclog the pipes, be a,
yeah.
space janitor. Um, and then there's
I
still,
got frustrated with that because
yeah, I think everybody
it
did.
was basically the boss guy was like saying, yeah, I can introduce you to my bosses if you do this." And then you would do it, and then you'd go, "Haha, but I also want
Eh,
you to do this
yeah, I'm
and
gonna need you
that."
to go ahead and come in on Saturday.
Yes, right. And then when you do get in front of the 3, I don't know, are we ready to talk about that part of
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
So you get a choice at the end while you're finishing up their chores. You find a relic, which I think goes back to more of like the source of the Voss and the Jedi, how the Jedi were involved. There's actually a Jedi archive within one of these temples. You get this data relic. You can hand it over, and you handed it over to the Voss rep, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I handed it over to the Gormak because there's the two. They're working together on the shrine restoration. And
Right.
I felt like the Gormak was he was getting put upon too much. He was getting pushed aside, and they were like the Voss were pushing the Gormak around too much,
Yep.
and they needed to be on more equal footing. So I'm like, dude, I like you. I think the Voss are pushing around too much. You decide what to do with this. Now you gave it to the Voss. When I
Right.
go and talk to the 3, they were pissed at me. Were they pissed at you too, or what did they say to you?
Well, I gave it to the boss guy, Matonja, and I think my reasoning was something like, well, it was, you know, in a Voss shrine, and it's just
Yeah.
more like
Yep.
restoring it to the.
Yeah.
And
I
then
debated it for sure.
yeah, I debated it too. In fact, I wished that I didn't have to choose. Like I didn't find that attractive. But anyway, um, the Gormak guy, he took it with very good grace. He's like, "Okay, fine, that makes sense. Whatever. I'm sure it'll be fine."
Yeah.
Um,
Which
they
is cool.
they were not mad at me for that. I mean, they weren't particularly welcoming or warm because
Mm. They were
they're boss.
clearly pissed at me because I walk in there and they said something about, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I think I'm showing an appropriate amount of respect, which could mean no respect at all because maybe that's appropriate. And
Right.
then they go, "Oh yeah, well everything you've done prior to this gathering leads us to believe otherwise. If we thought it could remedy our troubling circumstances, we would have removed you from Voss. But we hope that after hearing what we have to say, you may consider your actions more carefully." They were pissed. They were pissed that I gave it to the Gormat guy. So I didn't get exactly what was, they weren't very clear here, but the Voss never are.
No, I
So
feel like what they were saying, in a way, was just backing up what Malgus had just said, because he talked about an army will
yeah,
rise from the ashes. He's talking about everything being destroyed before it can be rebuilt. And they said the same thing in different words. They said something like the galaxy will be destroyed,
life will be
basically, or
shaped,
yeah, life will
scales
be reshaped.
unbalanced. Yeah,
Right. And then they throw in there that, they don't know what my role is, but I know but that we can't recover from this without me. I'm like,
yeah,
"Really? So why was I out sick?
yeah.
Why
If I'm so
why were you?"
important to saving the
Right. Why
Voss, well, yeah.
why would you not talk to me until I repaired some plumbing?
What do you need with a plumber? That's actually one of my the favorite a punchline to one of my favorite jokes. Stick around to the post show if you want to hear that joke.
Okay.
uh,
Um,
there is
I
a
mean, I'm okay with I get
yeah,
that the
yeah,
Voss are kind of arcane and we don't really understand them anyway, but so maybe this is just one thing about them that we don't understand. But their vision, which by the way, they're always saying their visions are not are always are 100% correct. It's just the interpretations that are sometimes go awry. I think there's been a lot of Voss visions that were incorrect.
We did one of the things you do as you're doing your chores is you go to the one temple where you get the lesson of judgment.
Yeah,
And the lesson of judgment,
right,
I think that was an eloquent way to sort of insert that into all of this and to really drive the point home that the Voss can off potentially be misinterpreting their crap. The whole
right. But that
point of
was
the parable of judgment was they get these visions and they can interpret it one way, and it can turn out to that was completely wrong interpretation.
right. And I think that was meant to be like the story of the beginning of having interpreters, as
Right.
opposed to just the person having the vision saying what it means.
But if you take that a step further, who says the interpreters are right?
Right, right. That's why, and then they just say they have to be very careful that they're right.
Right.
Yeah.
But they did say, so there was a couple good lines and when they're describing the vision. So they said, there's been a vision, its contents are disturbing. Life will be reshaped, scales unbalanced. A wave of change rises and falls beyond the reach of Darth Malgus. And as he dreams, he awakens a great power. He awakens a great power, one that will tear the galaxy apart. That's a cool bit right there.
That
Then
is.
they finish, which I think was also interesting. Should Darth Malgus perish, this catastrophe will transpire more quickly. Because you could say, "Well, tell me how to defeat Malgus," and they say
Mhm.
it kind of doesn't matter. Should Darth
Right.
Malgus perish, this catastrophe will transpire more quickly. But the bit about as he dreams, whatever dreams means, sort of metaphorically in this case, as he dreams, he awakens a great power. He awakens a great power, one that will tear the galaxy apart. There's, I think, just to finish this off for the evening, and because, that's sort of the end, and then you can do more stuff around this sort of the side story, which maybe we'll talk about next week in the dailies and the secrets on Voss, because the Flashpoint does not continue the story. It's sort of the side stuff of what's going on. But awakening a great power, one that will tear the galaxy apart. What's that, Seema? What do you think that is?
Oh
I
my
have some
gosh.
ideas. This is speculation time. Do you want me to do mine first so you can
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
of first? Well, I think we may be pushing towards this idea of a rising third faction. You can almost think of like Revenites, but
Right.
say that Relic, the holocron, and potentially building another machine out of the holocron or whatever it is, whatever ritual comes out of that, does this Darth Null awakening ritual out there, blasts out and creates this new faction of basically of people that gain force powers, become force users, and are neither Sith nor Jedi. And in doing that, if those people then sort of get rallied together through whatever mechanism, that would be the great power that would awaken. And because now you've got this third unbalancing power of force users, you got these, more space wizards out there off building their own empire, that could potentially tear the galaxy apart.
I see that, but I wonder where those people are right now. Like if there's such a huge army that's gonna unbalance
Everywhere.
everything.
That no, I think that's the point. They're everywhere. They're the janitor. They're in
Right,
Sith
right, right. Yes, but I mean,
Empire and Republic. They're just all over the galaxy.
okay, so where is the wrong word? But I mean, like, we definitely don't think, like, the Jedi and the Sith today don't think that there's an unbalancing number of Force users out there that they haven't identified. So,
Right.
like,
They don't
I
think that there is.
so what I might add to it is maybe what Darth Null could do and what Malgus wants to do is ignite the Force in everyone.
Maybe.
And
Maybe.
that's the army that's gonna rise from the ashes after this big destruction event happens. The
Yeah.
army that rises from the ashes will be all these Force
But
awakened
if
people.
it's I don't think it could be because if everybody has force powers, then if everyone's special, then nobody's special. In the words of Syndrome in The Incredibles.
Right. It would be the new normal, yeah. But also I don't think this is gonna come to pass.
See, I think it is.
I think
Okay, this is where my speculation heads is I think it
yeah.
is. Because here's the whole thing. What we saw in the Here's the whole thing, Seema. I don't know, but
At the
the
end of the
whole
day.
Rickon versus Sahar, the idea that Rickon does have force powers and could become a force user and a, Sith level or Jedi level force user, but got passed over. So the Jedi were making mistakes and the Sith were making mistakes, and they're passing over these people that could be full-fledged force users. This ritual igniting those, like taking those people. So it's not everybody. It's these force sensitives out there that were passed over or looked on, or you're too weak, or we're not going to train you, or you're too old to be trained, or blah, blah, blah. And getting full
Right.
force powers ignited in those people and them becoming a faction, then like being gathered together either by some charismatic leader or just coming together on their own.
Right. So, I mean, if
I think that's going to be 8.0 is what I'm alluding to. That
I definitely agree that what's going on between Sahar and Rickon is like a micro version, a foreshadowing.
yeah. So
Um,
it
and
could
when I say
end.
everyone, it may not be everyone, but it's a lot more people. And like Malgus doesn't know about midichlorians or whatever. He doesn't know that you can't ignite the force in someone who doesn't have the midichlorians, right? So he might be thinking
Don't bring up midichlorians.
everybody who's I know everybody who's left after I destroy the Sith and the Jedi will be my army that rises from the ashes.
Maybe.
I mean, he's assuming that he's going to live
I don't,
and he's going to be that charismatic leader, I guess.
maybe, but it hasn't he already said, I think he already said it it doesn't matter. And even if I'm not around anymore, if I'm not part of the picture, that's the whole everything's in motion.
Right.
And my part in this is doesn't matter. I could be that, maybe he thinks, I could be that leader. I could be in that position, but doesn't have to be. And I've
Well,
done what I wanted to do, or
if
at
the
least the
only
start of
thing
what I
that
wanted to do.
if the only thing that happens though is the destruction part, then the army is not going to rise from the ashes because it's not an army if it doesn't have a leader.
But if what he's doing by unleashing this power across the galaxy is creating all of these force users that are no longer that are outside the Sith and the Jedi, and then basically writing their own destiny, and I think what his point is, that then politically, and it's enough to politically disrupt both the Empire and the Republic, because they no longer have a monopoly on the space wizard powers, and they can no longer do what they're doing, which is oppress the masses by picking and choosing who they're turning into Jedi and Sith. That's kind of where I see that going. So that army rising is more metaphorical. It's like, right, it's like pulling up this third faction of people then that can just destabilize people, just destabilize both sides, all of it, rewrite the balance of power across the galaxy, because it doesn't, now you don't have to be Jedi or Sith. And that's no longer, it's no longer a limiting factor. And those power structures can now be brought down and more egalitarian, because now these people will be coming from everywhere and anywhere, slaves, multiple races, like the whole Sith's racism aspect gets broken down, the Jedi denying people because they didn't like their attitude or whatever. I don't know if that just sort of describes the Jedi's selection criteria. I don't like your attitude, um, but that's again.
Yeah, I think it's a little more literal than that for me because the context of his comment about the army rising from the ashes was being asked, well, don't you need an army for that? And I do think that he accepts that maybe he won't survive the experience, but he's doing it for power.
Yeah, see, I don't. I know you think that, and I could see that being a way to go. I kind of don't. I kind of believe his words. Where when
His
he's
words are, though, that he wants it to be different from how it is now.
right, but he's saying, not for me, not for my power. I mean, he's said
Where does
that.
he say that?
Well, when he first gets captured, his speech about my part is irrelevant. You know,
In the destruction. Like, I took that to mean he's saying, "This is gonna happen now no matter what. I've set it all in motion." But I definitely think he wants to survive and be the
I
leader
don't.
of the galaxy.
I mean, he probably thinks he can continue to direct things in the right direction. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he's not like, I'm just going to go retire now. It's not like a Thanos thing where he's going to snap his fingers, do do the snap, and then go retire on a planet. But I believe him when he was in the prison saying, even if you keep me out locked up for the rest of my life, or I die here, I've still achieved the majority of my plan, which is to ignite this revolution and
Right. And but
raise
the
these
other
people
part
and
that he hasn't
break
achieved
this.
yet is the part where he's the leader of the
I don't
revolution.
think, but he's
Like,
never said, and I need to be. He's never said that. So I'm believing that that's why while he thinks he could be that leader, and because he has tried to be that leader in the past, he was a false emperor.
right.
Uh, he has never said that in modern history. You believe he wants to be that, and that's part of his plan and critical to his plan. I don't, which I think is
So
fine. Go either
when
way.
he says the majority of my plan is already what do you view as the part that is left over from the majority?
Well, he
Like,
could continue to guide and maybe accelerate the destruction of the power structures if he's around to sort of like guide these masses as they rise up. But even if he's not, it would be enough of an unbalancing factor. Maybe he assumes it would be enough of an unbalancing factor that it doesn't matter. He's done it. If this force bomb goes off and we get all these force users, that the Sith Jedi, they don't matter anymore. And now I win. My ideas win even if I'm dead.
yeah. Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, like, he hasn't done this sort of Bond villain speech where he goes, "I will rule the world."
Yeah.
But I mean, his actions have always been him trying to rule the
They
world.
they have they have been. That you're completely correct. And he did set himself up as the emperor before. So it's not I'm not saying that your idea is off base in any way.
Right. Right, right,
Um,
right.
but I think it's
And I think his thing too about things are in motion, nothing you can do, is part of him wanting to unbalance us too in our thinking.
potentially. Yeah. I
So
mean
that
that
we so
that
that
would be a
we
thing.
he wants us to think that there's nothing
Lies and
we
deception are tools of the dark side, as we know. Yeah.
yeah, I guess. I don't know. I kind of don't really I kind of and people will argue with me about this too, but I kind of view the force is not light or dark, that it's how you use it. So in Rickon's case, just because I would answer your thing about Rickon's going to be a Sith Lord because his rage is blah 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 blah, I would say that's what's like seeping out now because he doesn't have good control of it. But it doesn't mean that rage could be the only way that he could access the force. Just like
True.
Revan
True.
was
I,
able to
I was
modulate.
Sith. I am Jedi.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
am Revan.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And the Voss show us that there's a different way of using the force. And if there's three ways of using the force, then there's infinite number of ways.
True. True. But there's certainly power structures that
Yes, absolutely.
everyone has chafed against throughout all Star Wars stories.
And
So
I mean,
that's
if
like
Rickon does become a Sith Lord, it would be spectacularly bad timing if it was right before the Sith and the Jedi all get destroyed.
yes. Well, it doesn't mean that if the Sith power structure gets destroyed, it doesn't mean he still can't be a dark side
Yeah,
force
you're
user
right.
as part of
You're right.
the broader diaspora of more egalitarian force warlords and whatever are sort of like ruling the galaxy at that point. All right, we have gone quite a bit over. When we come back next week, assuming we are on, I don't think we have anything going on. I think we should have a show next week. Maybe we can get into just another review of what actually was going on Voss. We did get a little bit more of a story of what's happening there. We got introduced to a couple new characters like the Gormak and Voss guy, and what they're trying to get done there and why. So and maybe we can speculate a little bit about, which I didn't really think even too hard about. What is the deal with when we find that data relic in the Jedi Temple on Voss that could be really catastrophic for them as a society? We didn't really say why or what it is or what's this big revelation. And they kind of just sort of brushed it aside. So maybe we'll speculate on that next week.
Yeah, so like big revelation. I mean, and I get people's frustration with that scene with Malgus because I felt like when I was playing through it that my character like went there to ask a certain question, then never asked it, and then said like, "Wait," I'm like, "Wait, why are you leaving now?
Right.
Why is this over now?"
Right.
And it feels kind of the same with the Voss. They're like, "Oh, this thing, bye."
Yeah.
You know, I'm leaving.
So
But
more to come.
yeah, more to
And
come.
we know that
A
there's
lot
more to come. And we know that they probably have written it already. And it's been alluded to by Keith. And we're going to have to wait to see. All
I'm
right.
bad at waiting.
Patience. Patience, Padawan. Patience. So with that, our EPC 471 droid is ready to be booted out of an airlock to broadcast this episode to all of you out there. All the feed and subscribe links are on newoverlords.com, as you already know, and our videos are up on YouTube/newoverlords. You can also come chat with us, as we said, in our Discord at newoverlords.com/Discord, where we might have some of those new mounts before long to be able to give away there. Follow on Twitter if you want to know when things go live at Max the Gray and at The New Overlords, and we'll be sure to keep you up to date there too. For the Alea Yacht Est Guild on Starforge, where we can add you to our guild and come play with us, you can find us there at aie-guild.org, and we've got a Discord link there, SWTOR section, Starforge, guilds on both the Republic and the Imperial side. Jump in there, and we'll get you an invite. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.